From KCET Los Angeles, this is SoCal Connected. Tonight on this edition, After the Burn.
That fire ran through so quickly that there was no way of stopping anything.
Devastating fires scorched Southern California. Who's to blame, man or nature?
What we've done is moved into these high-risk Santa Ana fire corridors. And so human nature is fighting Mother Nature.
Will the fire season never end? And who will pay to keep us safe?
All of us wind up paying for it.
And victim stories, their night of panic.
I called my mom. I was like, I grabbed everything I could. She was like, well, did you grab the current, stuff on the house? And I was like, no, I just grabbed what I could.
After the Burn. That's next on this edition of SoCal Connected. SoCal Connected is made possible through the generous support of the L.K. Whittier Foundation.
From the smoky air to the clogged freeways, the last week of fires touched everyone, even if you were miles away from the flames. The numbers paint a frightening picture. More than 43,000 acres burned, 842 homes destroyed, 7,500 firefighters on the scene. Is it just fire season, or is this the new normal? Correspondent Angie Crouch reports.
These images are becoming all too familiar in Southern California. Wildfires are now nearly a monthly event.
And this DC-10, just a huge amount of phos-check that it delivers.
And more homeowners who know they're daring Mother Nature are losing in a costly game of chance.
I kind of understood the risk and took it seriously, but it wasn't enough for me to say I'm not going to live here.
The state's fire season, which used to be a few months long, is now year-round.
Why is that? It's because of climate change. Climate is hotter. The forests and the brush and the chaparral are all drier, more weeks and months out of the year than previous. They're not growing as long. They're drying out. We now have a year-round fire season.
Climate could be part of it, but scientists point to something much simpler: too many people.
50 years ago, there were less than 5 million people in Southern California, and now we're pushing 20 million. And in the great search for affordable housing, we've moved into what I call the great Santa Ana fire corridors. And these historically are corridors that have always burned. Every 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And so it's very much a part of our history.
It's beautiful to live in the mountains. It's beautiful to live in trees. It's beautiful to live in untouched areas. And that's, in a sense, the California dream. What they don't realize is how unsafe it often is.
Tracy Weston is with the Center for Governmental Studies. He says with more Californians building homes in the so-called wildland-urban interface areas where nature and neighborhoods merge, the danger of fire increases.
If you build houses in the middle of a fire zone, those houses are like bombs that can suddenly explode in the middle of a fire and spread the fire even further.
Look at that. Oh my goodness.
They tend to spread to areas that aren't necessarily at a high risk because they build up such a firestorm.
Even some firefighters whose job it is to protect these homes agree that something's got to change, and soon.
It's getting worse. Absolutely, it's getting worse. We've all experienced it, and we need to join forces with the public, government agencies, environmental agencies, and maybe encourage not only the increase in the codes for defensible space and fire-resistant construction, but maybe start thinking about limiting construction in these areas that are getting impossible for us to defend.
This year, nearly 1.5 million acres of dry brush has gone up in smoke. That's about 20% more than burned last year. The cost of protecting homes in these areas is immense, not just for firefighters and their equipment, but all the support personnel.
We can't have the firefighters here without a place to sleep. We can't not feed them for 3 or 4 days. So all of those things, we always think about the fire truck and the pavement, but the support of them is what this base camp's about. feed them, sleep them, get them more hose, get them more water, get them more foam. All those things have to come from somewhere, and all are extremely expensive, and that's a ongoing debate.
Last year, the state of California went $500 million over budget fighting wildfires, and that number is expected to rise again this year. With the state running out of money, the debate rages on over who will pick up the tab.
I think the government has obligations of warning people, mandating fire standards, and possibly considering surcharges on living in hazardous areas.
At some point, if you were to assign all the cost of fighting the fires in these mountains to the homes in that area, it'd be astronomical. You'd pay $1 million a home. That doesn't make any sense.
And the governor has his own plan.
Through this emergency declarations, we want to let the people know that the state is with you. We're going to help to get your homes back and your structures back, to get your lives back.
In January, he proposed charging a fee on all property insurance sold in the state to help pay for fire protection. But is it fair for all Californians to pay to save homes built in danger zones? Lieutenant Governor John Garamendi says the cost is just part of living in the Golden State.
We all pay. We're a community. Even if you're in the mountain area up against the mountains, or if you're in the central Los Angeles region, we're a community. And it's in all of our interest to protect the community, so all of us wind up paying for it. There is a differential cost that should be built into the insurance system. If you are in a dangerous area and you have a dangerous house in a dangerous area, your insurance should cost more than somebody that's in a safer area that has a fire-safe house.
Yeah, we're down to the foundation.
Residents in the fire zone say they're well aware of the high price they pay for paradise.
We pay more premium for insurance. I think there's premiums to pay. How you allocate that, I really can't comment on allocation of resources and where tax dollars go.
I can see where people, where their jobs are completely to worry about people's safety, that they would look at an area like this and say, you shouldn't build. But at the same time, I had my back slope was completely green and sprinklers that went off every day. So according to the city, I was doing everything to protect my property and keep it from this.
Despite the risk, many of this week's victims say they won't be chased away by fire.
We'll stay here, and all these guys are going to rebuild, and we love our little community, and we wouldn't change it.
We're starting to rebuild the deck right here, as you can see, and the wall was burnt, so we've rebuilt this wall. There's a small garden area.
Construction is already underway in Malibu, where wildfires torched dozens of homes last year. Suzanne Browning is rebuilding her mother's home. She says her family takes the risk because they love the spectacular scenery.
Risk versus view. The view is winning out because you have more joy and more days of complete happiness than you do of those big nightmare evacuation days.
Did you see any firemen while you were here?
Some of this week's burned out residents say they'll make their own changes next time around.
I'll build it a little differently. There won't be any wood structures exposed, put a lot of steel in it, and try to make it a little more defensible.
We have no plans to leave. We're here, we're going to stay here. We're going to obviously build some things into the house that'll make it certainly more resistant to fire and take some measures, but we're not going to abandon the area.
Despite this week's tragedy, urban sprawl into fire-prone areas is not going away. So our attention now must turn to how to best deal with it.
We live in one of the most beautiful places on earth, but many of these places are extremely high risk. But we can decrease that risk by building smarter and safer. You can zone them better and you can zone them safer, all right? And so that you don't have to see a repeat year after year after year.
As the Southland recovers, it's not a matter of if, but when the next spark will ignite, putting us all in the line of fire. I'm Angie Crouch for SoCal Connected.
This round of fires may be out for now, but the residual smoke may have long-term health effects. Is your neighborhood at risk? Go to our website at kcet.org/SoCal for the answer.
Up next, life after the burn. Extraordinary people, pictures, and stories you'll never forget.
Little pillow from my car, my little skinny day planner. This is it. 63 years of life. This is it.
Trying to understand what just happened.
Citizen journalists across Southern California have been capturing these fires on their video cameras and cell phones and posting them on the web. Some of these astonishing videos are being featured on our website, kcet.org/SoCal, in a special section called YouTube Firewall. Take a look.